There are so many challenges in transition, and you might think it's hard to pick just one as being the biggest challenge. Is it coming out at work? Coming out to family? Coming out to friends? Coming out to a partner? Undergoing surgeries to feel at home in your own body? Figuring out how to start HRT and having the patience of going through that process of all the changes that come with being on HRT. All of these are hard, time-consuming, difficult in their own ways, but I think the first steps are the hardest. The first steps that involved coming out to myself. Magic wand that could make me the woman that I always wanted to be. And even better, make everyone else think that I've always been this way. I mean, in reality, I've always been me, but others just didn't see that part of me or refused to acknowledge that part of me before I did. That's what I wanted for so many years. Something to quickly take away the pain and finally let me live, without all of the other struggles in between. And the fact that transitioning wasn't a thing that I thought I could actually do, I therefore thought that magical intervention was my only option. At least I thought that for a long time. For better or for worse, I had to be my own magic wand for anything to actually change. Yeah, I know. So incredibly cheesy, but you can deal with it. I realized if I kept waiting for this wish to come true, I'd be waiting forever. I had to finally not only accept that I was different, but also accept that I needed to do something about that, and then actually do something about that. Nothing would change if I kept sitting on my ass all day, and I feel like that's the hardest part of transition, at least it was for me. And the hardest part of so many other things in life, finally accepting that a change needs to be made. I couldn't fix the problem until I admitted that it existed. And let's be clear, when I say problem, I don't mean me. I don't mean my identity as a woman or as a trans woman. What I mean is that the problem was that life was passing me by, and that I was terribly depressed and alone. There's nothing wrong with being trans. I've said that to myself many times, and I'm also saying it to all of you. There's nothing wrong with being who you are. But I had to finally accept that there was nothing wrong with being trans in order to be able to transition, which then allowed me to finally tackle these problems that I had been dealing with, and finally allowed me to stop continuing failing as a man. But as we all know, there's many roadblocks and denials that just pop in our head that cause us to continue to put off transition, things that we have to push back and fight against. Thoughts like, I could never do that. I don't deserve this. It's not actually possible. Maybe I'm not actually trans. I just have to wait for the right time to start. Or I'll start next year. I'll start next month. I'll start in a decade. I'll start once these things fall into place in my life. And it's always like, there's always a next something. It's always in the future, a future that never comes. It's super easy to put off big and scary and uncertain things, even if deep down we know that life will eventually get much better if we take that path. It might be more difficult at first, it often is more difficult at first, but it will eventually be better than it is now. Remember though, we don't have to do it all at once. And trying to do that would have set me up for failure, or could have set me up for failure. Baby steps, patience. I often say these things. Part of the reason I do, though, is because we often underestimate how big those first transition steps are. When I told my girlfriend at the time that I needed to transition, the first time that I put that out into the world and said anything of the sort to anyone outside of myself, I was starting a journey. It's new, exciting, fulfilling, but it's also filled with fear and uncertainty. I was moving toward an unknown, but doing so because I knew that I deserved to at least try to have some happiness in my life. We all deserve that. We all deserve that happiness. We all deserve to be able to be ourselves in this world. When we take those first few steps, we are finally starting to leave behind what we know for what we want and what we deserve. We create this safety blanket to protect ourselves, to repress those parts of ourselves, to allow us to live and live without ridicule. We try to live without shame, and it bubbles back up all the time. We start to leave behind that safety blanket because the reward of authenticity is worth that risk. We are choosing ourselves for probably the first time ever, at least truly choosing ourselves. And all of this is why I think the biggest challenge for me in transition was starting, accepting, letting go, embracing, choosing me, and finally coming out to myself. I had to do all these things before I could come out to other people, before I could truly come out full time. I had to tackle all these roadblocks internally for myself. We want everything to fall in place right away. We want that magic wand. Totally get that. Being patient sucks, especially when I'm finally able to start living my life. After putting so many things on hold, I'm finally able to start living. Why should I continue to be patient? But let's not also undersell how big and powerful it is to take those first steps, to finally choose ourselves and choose what we need. I live this life, I live in this body 24/7, so I had to do what I needed to do in order to make this life not only manageable and livable, but actually fulfilling and enjoyable. I don't want to just live life, I want to truly experience life. And transition is one of those things that truly has allowed me to do that. And transition looks different for all of us. The challenges we face, the rewards we face, the paths we take. So I now turn it over to you. And what do you think your biggest challenge is in transitioning? Is it even possible to name only one? Probably pretty hard to do that, because there can be many. And how do you feel about naming those first few steps and coming out to yourself as being the biggest challenge? Do you agree with that? Do you disagree with that completely? Why or why not? Well, let me know all this and more down in the comments below. And of course, as always, Tipsy and I love you all and hope that you're staying as safe and healthy as you can. If you have not done so already, please be sure to give this a huge thumbs up and hit that subscribe button and notification bell. I love you all. Bye for now.